right. Well, hey, good afternoon. It is March 5th, 2024, and the free agency frenzy is still rolling. It's just getting started, and it's starting to roll in Detroit. Motown is starting to get thick with it. And look, today's just the beginning. I might have a minor meltdown today because based on who the Lions just signed, I think you guys have heard me by now. It's not something that I wanted to see come back to Detroit. And I hate to say that I called it because when I watched Brad Holmes in his presser say that this individual only had one major injury his entire career, like that's not some, big deal that he's now had two major injuries. And that person is cornerback Emmanuel Mosley. All right, I'll let that marinate for just a minute. So Emmanuel Mosley has been reported by Adam Schefter of ESPN that he will be returning to the Lions on a 1-year deal. So I am not happy at all with this signing because he's coming off 2 ACLs. Now, the likelihood of him ripping another ACL, it's unlikely. When they're surgically repaired, they're supposedly stronger than they were before. Now, my question is, what is he going to be able to do? So last time he injured himself, exact same week, exact same game, and he wasn't able to come back until, the beginning of the season, but then he had a setback, had a minor surgery, and then the Lions, curbed him for a little bit, and he didn't come back until, week 5? And then he gets injured again. So, look, any time that you're betting on previously injured players to come back and be themselves prior to injury, it's not likely. It takes time. We've seen it happen with Jamison Williams. And look, not to, throw a bunch of shade on Jamison because he really bounced back, the last, 6 weeks or so of the season, including the playoffs. I think that it took him time to feel comfortable again. That injury, for him, I don't think he had the confidence. And I could be wrong. I mean, I'm putting words in the guy's mouth, right? But just knowing what these injuries mean and what you hear from a lot of players over the, many, many years that I've been watching the NFL is that the confidence was the biggest factor. Having the stability and feeling safe was the biggest factors. And Jamison, when he got hurt, excuse me, it took him a minute to come back. And then he had that one injury or near injury where he went up on the sideline, came down, both of his legs hyperextended, underneath him, and he crawled off to the, the sideline, and then he was running up and down the sideline. And I think it was at that very moment that Jamison Williams is like, wait a second, I'm fine. I'm not hurt. And, that's the biggest part of this is it's going to take time for Emmanuel Mosley to do his thing. And that's what we're looking at now. So Emmanuel Mosley coming back on a 1-year deal. And there it is. Big play Jay reading my mind. Darius Williams. He is the guy that I've been watching from afar, wondering what was going to happen with the Jaguars to make room for, the guys that they have to sign. And let me see if I can get this pulled up on the screen here. They have franchise tag implications for Josh Allen. The Jaguars do. So they've got to clear a bunch of room, make some space for this guy. And so they are releasing Darius Williams. He is going to be a cap. Here we go. Let me see if I can make that a little bit bigger in the right areas. So according again to Ian Rappaport, the Jaguars are planning on releasing cornerback Darius Williams. Source said in a move to create cap space, he had a $10.5 million cap hit. He had 9 passes defended and 4 interceptions last season. So when you talk about a guy that can produce, this is it. Now, here's where I go off into the weeds. Who did Darius Williams play for? Anybody remember? Anybody? I'll give it one more minute. The Rams. So he is a Brad Holmes guy. Brad Holmes knows him. Remember, Brad Holmes is not bringing anybody into the Detroit Lions organization unless he knows them. And we've seen that with all of the signings through free agency the last 3 seasons. They have all been former Rams guys or guys that Brad Holmes has scouted, had interviews with, and it gets thick. We did, what is about a week ago now, we went through the roster. I think it was Sunday night, actually. You had Jamal Williams, Josh Reynolds, Jared Goff, Denzel Mims, Tyrell Crosby, Juju Hughes, Cam Sutton. So plenty of free agents that were either interviewed by Brad Holmes, scouted by Brad Holmes and his team, played for the Rams. That's where he feels comfortable. So at this point, I'm thinking that Darius Williams might be the number one target for the Lions, moving through free agency for a few reasons. We talked about it this morning, that L'Jarius Sneed being the tag and trade deal, it's likely that a deal could get done with the Lions. I don't know. With Darius Williams becoming available, this one's a little bit more attractive. You're talking a guy that is going to be about half as much as L'Jarius Sneed, and the Lions won't have to give up any cap or any assets from the draft. So that's who I'm thinking is on the hit list here for the Lions, and who they're going to heavily target here in free agency. David Fry says, what kind of deal will Williams command? Townsend is his old positional coach. Bring him in. So, perfect analogy here, David. So that's the next part of this is Deshea Townsend has relationships with him. And any time that you look, at guys to bring in, it's the relationships. I've coached this guy before. He played with my team before. According to Brad Holmes, he has to know them. And all of these stars are kind of aligning right now that Darius Williams is going to become a Detroit Lion. And I'm all about it. I mean, this guy's a baller, and he's not as expensive. So to answer your question, how much of a deal is it going to take to get Darius Williams? Well, according to Mr. Rap Sheet here, Ian Rappaport, he was a $10.5 million cap hit. So would it be too far-fetched to say that you could get him for 10.5 or less? I think that's probably the benchmark, is that you would not want to overpay. Now let's take a look at some of his history. I'll bring it up here. And I do got to run pretty quickly. This is just a breaking news one. Let's take a look at some of his previous contracts and what he's doing stat-wise. 1 second. Yeah, Denver took a huge cap hit. So I put that out on Twitter, that Russell Wilson is going to end up on a team for vet minimum because the Broncos are paying his entire salary, $80+ million in dead cap. Who wouldn't want Russell Wilson on their team for $1 million? I'd do it in a heartbeat. I'd bring him in to the Detroit Lions, but he wouldn't be starting, unfortunately. I know it'll never happen, but you can never have enough good QBs. So 2018, going through some of his stats here, played with LA. Blah, 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 blah. Where's it at? No interceptions. So we'll start in 2019. 2 interceptions, 2020, 4. Didn't have any in 21 or 22, and then had 4 last year. As far as durability goes, he's played in every game the last 2 seasons. He played in 14 games in 21, 16 games in 2020, 12 games in 2019. I think he went through some injury issues at the very beginning of his career. I could be mistaken, but he doesn't have a whole lot of game time in for the first couple of seasons of his career. So does he meet these, the status quo for a cornerback? The answer is no. He's only 5'9", 187. So he wouldn't be somebody that would be that outside corner that we would be looking for. In my opinion, he's a little bit too short. Could he come in as a really good slot? Well, we do need to upgrade the slot. You've got Chase Lucas that is a restricted free agent, but who else do we have? Sounds like Jerry Jacobs is being released. According to his cryptic tweets, he's making a decision to move on with his life. So if Jerry Jacobs is gone, who do we have left? We have Cam Sutton. We have Brian Branch. Those are really the only 2 corners, but Brian Branch is a nickel safety. So in my opinion, the Lions need to bring in at least 3 corners before the draft. My opinion, I don't know if they'll do it. Maybe they get a bunch more guys in UDFA and find some talent in the UDFA market. But as far as a player that can play, this guy would be a perfect slot corner for the Detroit Lions and could be heavily utilized in a lot of the bigger scheme packages that we put together with the bigger nickel packages, the dime packages. I think he could be heavily utilized. Now, what is it going to take to get him? Like I said, he was a $10.5 million cap hit. Maybe he comes in on a cheaper deal. Maybe he comes in on a 1-year prove it. Maybe he comes in on a 2-year, $8 million deal. I really don't know. I haven't been able to do the research, but I do like him for a slot corner. Now, I think he's probably the number one target right now for the Lions in free agency. But I think the Lions are still going to be looking towards the draft to find that bigger corner. There's plenty of big guys in this draft that are playing safety that have the potential to move up to play corner. So look, it's good news that, some more players are starting to get released. It's only Tuesday and we have a long week ahead of us. Quick recap from this morning. As some of you had mentioned already, Matabuki has been tagged. Allen's been tagged. Chris Jones is working out a deal. Everybody we spoke about this morning has been tagged or being tagged. And that information is by ways of Ian Rappaport and Adam Schefter. So let me look at a couple more breakings. Yeah, Justin Matabuki has officially been franchise tagged right around 28 minutes ago. It sounds like that's about it for right now. I don't see anything else breaking, any other additional news at this moment. Of course, tight end Dalton Schultz got a deal done in Houston. And Jaguars, like I said, planning on releasing quarterback Darius Williams. Saquon Barkley will be a free agent. Well, that's interesting. He's in a heavy running back market, in the draft. Panthers officially placed the tag on Brian Burns. He's not going anywhere. We know that Snead had the tag placed on him before this morning's show. So that's about it. Look for Darius Williams to get a call from Detroit. I'm expecting, maybe he's added as slot corner number 1. Cam Sutton could slide over to cornerback number 2. And the Lions still need to bring in a lockdown cornerback. But that's my news for today. Not happy about Mosley. I think it's a waste. I think it's a waste of money. I can't wait to see what his contract actually looks like, and then I might change my mind. Here's the last thing I'm going to say on Mosley. If he can get healthy and somehow help this team in the second half of the season, I think that's great upside. But to bring in a guy that's, 2 ACLs, back-to-back seasons, it's going to be very tough for this guy to have the confidence to step back on the field. Now, I'm not doubting his mentality. I don't know the guy from Adam. So, he was able to get through it the first time. It's going to be even tougher to get through it the second time. I just feel like it would be wise for Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell to not rest on Mosley to be a big, impactful player this season. I think that they need to have it in the back of their mind that this guy is going to be the 3rd, 4th, 5th corner on this roster until he can play. And last year, I think the Lions made a very critical error when they let that cornerback go to free agency, and they, ended up not being able to get Mosley on the field until week 5. And that was a critical error because I would have much rather have seen, I can't even remember his name right now, but I think you guys know who I'm talking about. It wasn't Gilmore. It was the other guy, Sterling Thomas. So they let Sterling Thomas walk at cut day, expecting Mosley to make it, week 1. And then they had the setback after setback after setback. And then it's week 5 and then it's week 0 again because he's injured. So not happy about the Mosley signing, but we'll see what happens from here on out. I'd be excited if Darius Williams could become a Lion. We do need a really good slot corner. And I'm expecting, overall that the corner 1 position will be upgraded this season. So Snead is still not out of the question. It's a little bit more attractive when you don't have to give up draft picks. So, all right, y'all. Thank you for joining me. It's been another breaking news edition by Rock Down Detroit Lions by ways of Adam Schefter and Ian Rappaport. That's your news. Just at the 1:42 hour. Y'all take care. We will see you all later on today, I'm sure. Bye-bye.